Welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're getting into something absolutely fascinating, the intersection of human spirituality and computational systems. We're unpacking OMI, or On My Intelligence, specifically looking at it as a theological computational ontology. So, let's dive right in and figure out how the deepest aspects of our beliefs can actually be mapped onto code, without losing their soul in the process.
To kick things off, we really have to ask ourselves a pretty vital question. What are you measuring, and why? This taps right into a huge modern anxiety, doesn't it? We're living in an age where algorithms constantly threaten to turn us into just mere data points. We're quantified, we're categorized, and we're fed straight into dashboards. But the source material for OMI completely challenges that premise. It forces us to hit pause and reflect on what these systems are actually for.
So, here's our roadmap for today. 1. Systems are only mirrors. 2. The root of relation. 3. God is Word. 4. The sevenfold creation path. And finally, 5. The OMI to IMO bridge. Let's jump into Section 1. Systems are only mirrors, escaping the dashboard trap.
You see, humanity is kind of tragically mistaken measurement for meaning. We trust dashboards way more than we trust human faces, right? And we ask these computational systems to carry a moral weight that honestly only human conscience should ever bear. But here's a powerful quote from the text. Logos does not abolish number. Logos asks, what are you measuring and why? OMI doesn't hate numbers at all. It just demands that numbers act as the servants of relation, rather than the ultimate judges of human value. It's really about putting computation back into its proper subordinate place.
Because at the end of the day, systems are simply mirrors. They are not judges, and they are certainly not gods. Machines are just tools. They're meant to reflect our boundaries and our agreements. They shouldn't be out there extracting our private convictions or forcing some kind of collective belief onto us. When a system truly acts as a mirror, it shows us our own agreements. It shows us our boundaries. But it never presumes to actually own our intelligence.
All right, moving into Section 2, the root of relation, the computational genesis.
Now, before a system can mirror anything at all, there has to be a starting point, right? A computational null seed. Because from the void, a boundary is born. In OMI, this mathematical root is expressed simply as C minus R, comma, C plus R. The C is the center that declares, and the R is the radius that relates. Think of it like drawing the very first circle on a completely blank piece of paper. Before you get any complex data, any algorithms, you just have this root pair. It creates the absolute first relation, the first boundary, literally the genesis point of the whole system.
And this mathematical root, this center and radius, actually maps directly to the opening of the biblical Genesis. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. That center, declaring, and the radius relating, it perfectly mirrors the ancient theological concept of God declaring order straight into the void. It is just a profoundly beautiful way to look at how a computational witness cell can actually reflect these deep, foundational concepts of creation.
Which brings us to Section 3. God is Word, making relation accountable.
So, how do we build from that mathematical void into the messy realm of human ministry and public declaration? Well, think about the statement, God is blank. A specific word might be profoundly sacred to you, but entirely empty to someone else, or maybe completely rejected by a third person. And that right there is exactly why the OMI protocol refuses to force a single official result. It provides a structure where meaning can actually exist without collapsing into coercion.
As the text puts it, a word opens a world. Every single honest word creates a space, a bounded area where meaning can be freely contested, attested to, and resolved. In our digital age, which, let's face it, usually tries to force everyone into a single, neat consensus, OMI insists on preserving this open space for personal truth.
And to protect that space, OMI relies on some incredibly strict rules of testimony. Listen to these. I do not own the answer. I ask the question. I protect the boundary. I accept only what is freely given. This is so crucial because it fiercely protects human consent. It ensures that the algorithmic architecture can literally never steal or coerce your personal beliefs. It just provides a safe, neutral container for them.
Let's look at how that actually happens in Section 4, the sevenfold creation path, from void to construct.
How exactly does a thought or a belief become a preservable relation through a structured computational path? Well, first, we have to recognize a major danger. The text warns us that render to believe is the trap. We are so incredibly used to seeing something rendered on a screen and just blindly trusting it as absolute truth, aren't we? But true, accountable meaning requires a rigorous, actual journey of validation long before it's ever projected.
And that journey is a chronological path. It literally starts with a declaration. That declaration becomes a citation, which then becomes an assertion. Then it seeks attestation, observation, annotation, agreement, and then finally, it becomes a construct. Step by step, subjective human testimony is beautifully transformed into an accountable witness that can actually be safely recorded on a computational surface.
To avoid that render-to-believe trap we just talked about, OMI demands a very specific production posture: validate, resolve, record, project, inspect. This right here is the essential antidote to our modern data dilemma. It guarantees that platforms never get to own our personal testimonies. The projection, the rendering, only happens after validation and resolution. That keeps the authority squarely with the human being, not the algorithm.
Okay, final section. Section 5. The OMI to IMO bridge. Harmonizing human agreement.
This is where everything we've talked about harmonizes into the ultimate human application. On one side, we have OMI, On My Intelligence. This is the protocol, right? The rigid computational grammar that protects the boundary. But on the other side, we have IMO, In My Opinion. This is the personal carrier where meaning is locally resolved by you. So OMI is the architecture, and IMO is your personal truth, safely traveling across it.
And connecting them is what's called the hyphenated field of relation, OMI-IMO. This bridge is amazing because it shows how the mathematical truth of the protocol connects perfectly to your own unique lived experience. That space right in the middle, between the system's intelligence and your personal opinion, that is exactly where true relation happens.
There's a quote here I absolutely love. Agreement is how harmonization becomes replayable without forcing sameness. Just think about the profound beauty of that idea for a second. In this computational framework, we can actually find agreement, and we can build a shared, replayable construct without ever erasing our individuality. No one is forced to be exactly the same. It creates this almost poetic cascade, right from the void. From darkness, boundary. From boundary, declaration. From declaration, word. From word, citation. From citation, attestation. It traces the entire path of meaning. It takes us from the absolute darkness of the computational root, all the way up to structured human agreement.
What OMI ultimately shows us is that our data and our deepest beliefs, they don't have to be extracted or exploited by big platforms. They can be carefully bounded, fiercely protected, and honestly harmonized. The architecture for this already exists, which really leaves just one question for us to ponder. How will you choose to frame your own meaning?